Oh, we've got stuff. This is RamView.
It's hot out there, so let's blow them out the line of scrimmage. Headline, Los Angeles.
Live from the Ram Cave, I'm Joe Terosian, and this is RamView, the February 17th, 2023 edition, brought to you by Kistler Law Firm. Injured in an auto accident? Need some help? Have questions? Give Kistler Law a call at 661 206 6990. That's 661 206 6990, and or check out KistlerLawFirm.com. Kistler Law, they've been fighting for you since 92. And by Temple City Auto Repair. Having some auto issues? Get yourself some John and Henry at TempleCityAutoRepair.com. We've got Ram stuff, NFL coaching stuff, draft stuff, quarterback stuff. But first, I got some mea culpa stuff. I need to make an apology, and I hate making a mistake because I pride myself on nailing certain things. And I was blessed by Walter Berry and John Gomez to share off the LA Rams of Inglewood group page on Wednesday. I'm trying to go to a group page every Wednesday to broadcast live from there. And I was at Inglewood, LA Rams of Inglewood on Wednesday, and I, tongue in cheek, being cute, I asked Walter Berry if he was the Walter Berry that played at Rutgers and with the San Antonio Spurs. But my friend from Mid-Valley Sports, Tim Peterson, pointed it out to me, and I knew it the second he brought it up. I said, Walter Berry didn't play at Rutgers. Walter Berry played at St. John's when they were still called the Redmen, and then he had a career in San Antonio, and he went to Europe. And so I meant to say, Mr. Berry, was Walter Berry the guy that played, are you the guy that played at St. John's? And I said, Rutgers, I apologize. I hope I didn't offend you. The word is out. I suck. And maybe I shouldn't say that, but I do take these things personally. These are the things that bug me when I blow them. So let's start with this, okay? Let's start with this. There's a lot of things going on in sports, and some people are saying, there's nothing to talk about. There's always stuff to talk about in sports and always stuff to talk about in football. But let's start with this. I'm going to say this, and this shouldn't be a no-brainer, right? But war should be a last resort, right? Never fall for the answer that war is not the answer, right? Sometimes in the real world, when we look at real situations, war is the answer. There was no other alternative in the American Civil War. War was the answer. You had to go to war. World War II, really? You were going to negotiate that? No, we're going to have to go to war on that one. Violence sometimes brings out the right result. But no matter what, war, violence, we'll stick with war, it should always be the last resort. Always. So I'm going somewhere with this. So another off-season head coaching hiring period has ended. And Eric Bieniemy, the Chiefs OC, still doesn't have a head coaching gig. And there's talk about him going to the Washington Texans as their OC and maybe calling, having full control of the offense. But declaring it racism as to why Eric Bieniemy doesn't have a job, it's like going to war. And that declaration should be the last resort instead of the first resort. It's always the first resort because the KBM, the Kiss Mutt media, needs to feel like they're crusading and they're changing lives, and everyone just plays into all that, right? And before declaring somebody a racist, it should be a last result. Just for where we're at now, Todd Bowles, Mike McDaniel, Mike Tomlin, D'Amico Ryans are African-American head coaches. Robert Saleh of Mediterranean descent, I think, and or Arab descent. Middle Eastern descent. I think that's what they're saying. Ron Rivera, Hispanic, who no one counted before, but everyone's got to get their virtue points in, right? No one cared when they hired Ron Rivera, but now we have to count it, right? 7 of the 9 minority general managers in the league are African-American. And all this is great, but some of those African-American general managers, they're hiring white coaches. And you have to ask yourself, are they hiring them because they're white or because they think that person in that moment or in this present moment gives them the best opportunity to win, and the key of all things, keep their job. There are only, 32 starting quarterback positions in the NFL in the entire world. There are only 32 NFL head coaching jobs in the entire world. There are only 32 NFL general manager jobs in the entire world. If I get that job, I want to keep it as long as I can. And to keep that job, I'd fire my wife and I'd hire a communist if I thought it would help me keep that job and help me to win, right? That's the most important thing. I don't think people are making decisions based on what someone looks like. And it's such low-hanging fruit, almost Neanderthal type thinking, to make that be the first thing you're reaching for. And I shared this earlier about a month ago. In the 20 plus years the Houston Texans have been around, do you realize they've had 4 African-American head coaches? One of them was Romeo Cornell way back in the day. But their last 3 head coaches, David Culley, Lovie Smith, and now they've hired DeMeco Ryans, right? I don't know why they fired David Culley. I don't know why they hired Lovie Smith, but it looks like they're invested in DeMeco Ryans, giving him a 6-year contract. That's really pretty good. It'll be interesting to see how that plays out. And here's the thing, though. The Texans are a lousy franchise, right? They've been a bad franchise for a long time, and their owner, is it Todd McNair? Not Rob McNair, Robert McNair, okay? Their owner has been labeled a racist before. In fact, when Lovie Smith was fired, Stephen A. Smith of ESPN declared him a racist. But then he just gave a 6-year contract to DeMeco Ryans, right? Indianapolis owner Jim Irsay, because he didn't hire Raheem Morris, was labeled an effing racist by a couple of white commentators needing to be loved by the culture and the kiss butt media, right? And you forget, Jim Irsay hired Tony Dungy, Caldwell after him. And Jim Irsay's not a great owner in the sense that he does some crazy things. But is the first thing you go for is that he's an effing racist? I mean, I'm upset Raheem Morris didn't get the job too. I wanted that 3rd round comp pick, right? But am I saying there's no racism? I ain't saying that. I'm not saying there's no racism, okay? Okay? I ain't saying that. But before I tag somebody with the worst tag I could ever give them, like going to war, I'm going to look for another answer before I do that. And another reason as to why maybe Eric Bieniemy doesn't have a job yet or hasn't been hired as an HC. There's a couple things right off the top. Number one, the NFL rules work against assistants who go deep in the postseason, right? DeMeco Ryans did, I believe, 4 interviews for head coaching jobs the week leading up to the NFC title game. That was a bad look. That's not a good thing, but I get why he did it. His window was open. He needed to take advantage of it, and good for the 49ers giving him that opportunity. And it certainly wasn't the 49ers defense that crashed and burned in Philly on Title Sunday or Championship Sunday in the NFC. Number 2, some guys are punished because of their past. And no matter how repentant they've been, it's tough to shake a flame out, right? A coach could have a domestic violence issue, 25 years ago in his rearview mirror with no repeat offenses, multiple mea culpas, multiple social work to make amends, right? It's like, we do something awful, and then for the culture, we have to serve soup in a kitchen or do something and say how bad we are, as like we're trying to eliminate or compensate for a carbon footprint, right? But I've seen guys, they have no issues for 25 years. It was one bad moment, and they're cooked forever, right? A Twitter post from 12 years ago can get you bounced from the Academy Awards. A Twitter post from a few years ago can get you bounced from a coaching job. Oops, sorry, right? So rules work against you. Your past works against you. And these things are all in play in Bieniemy. Number 3, some guys are just terrible in the interview room. We had a coach we used to call Gypsy John. I won't give his last name, but we couldn't understand why this guy couldn't get a job anywhere. And he went to a whole bunch of different places. He had all the qualifications, a bright football guy. And we started asking around, hey, how come this guy's not getting a gig? And they told us, he doesn't interview well. It was a bad interview. He stumbles, he mumbles, he He has attitude. I mean, I'm not saying this about this one guy in particular, but there's all sorts of reasons. 21 years as a sports writer, I've experienced this. I've seen this up close. Guy with the most talent, most experience, interviews poorly or sounds like a jackwagon, right? He's like, guy hasn't achieved anything as a head coach and he's talking trash and how it's going to be my way or the highway and everything, and not speaking with confidence, but with arrogance, right? And or the individual doesn't work well with others, right? So it could be interviews poorly, speaks in a terrible way, or doesn't work well with others, or combination of all of them. Again, I'm not saying race is completely off the table. I think race is more prevalent in places that claim to be against racist. It's the theory that when I got to keep telling you I'm not a racist, I'm going to start worrying about you may be a racist, right? We don't keep denying things that aren't necessarily particular to us. So I digress. Is race off the table? No, we don't know. But something's indicating to me that Eric Bieniemy doesn't interview well, right? He's been around for a while, and a lot of minority coaches have been hired since Bieniemy rose to the top of the queue a few years ago, right? This has been going on for 3 or 4 years now, and other minority coaches have been hired. So maybe, just maybe, he doesn't interview well. Couple that with the NFL rules and a little bit of a past, and you may likely have an answer. Whatever the case, you should be hesitant before going to war, and you should be hesitant before attempting to pad your virtue resume by declaring somebody a terrible human being and a racist, right? And that's just something that's been brewing for the last couple of days. I've just been hearing these ridiculous people say, well, it must be racism. It must be racism. Was it racism that brought in this new wave of GMs? Was it racism that made what's his name? Brad Williams with the Detroit Lions, that made him the GM at the Lions, and then he hires Dan Campbell? I mean, Brad Holmes, was that racism? I mean, no, he hired the best guy he can get, right? Ryan Poles hired Eberflus, right? These guys hire people who are going to help them win. And then, as I said, I'd fire my wife and hire a communist to allow me to keep a job in the NFL that only 32 people in the world have, right? Okay. Everybody is running also with this. The Kevin Demoff line about listening to trade calls for every player on the roster. Kevin Demoff is not the general manager of the Rams. He is the chief operating officer, the business side of the Rams, okay? He doesn't make those decisions. Am I saying he's not in the room? I don't know, but I think it's Les Snead's show. And what he's going to say is a whole lot of generic stuff. Compliment players and say, hey, we listen to calls on everybody. And he should say that, because who knows? Someone's going to offer you something really good sometime, right? Somebody could offer you something. Should the Rams trade Jalen Ramsey? Absolutely not. It's a stupid idea. Unless someone's going to give you Tyreek Hill type of draft capital, right? The kind of stuff the Chiefs got from the Dolphins, which was a first rounder, a second rounder, 2 fourths, and a sixth. Absolutely. If someone's going to give you 5 picks, a first, a second, 2 fourths, and a sixth, yeah, I'd trade Aaron Donald for that right now in his career, right? Then you could have that conversation when someone's offering you that kind of capital. But no one's going to do that. And any movement of Jalen Ramsey for anything less than that, something really transcendent, it sends a message that this window for the Rams is closed. And if you're going to do that, you might as well start jettisoning everybody else. And I don't think the Rams believe that, because this year they're smart enough to know this year was an aberration, that the worst thing possible that could have happened. Everybody got hurt. How ridiculous do we get sometime in Ram fandom? And even with people who are paid to be behind a microphone, I heard a theory of the Rams trading Jalen Ramsey to the Phoenix Cardinals or the Arizona Cardinals for DeAndre Hopkins. Help me. That is just so bad, so weak, and so lazy. We should not move Jalen Ramsey. We'll break down the cornerbacks next week and talk about them. But Jalen Ramsey is this exceptional utility player on the back end of the defense. And I've said it before, if the Rams really thought about how to use Jalen Ramsey, because this guy can line up in the box, no second guy in the secondary in the NFL tackles like Jalen Ramsey. He can rush the quarterback. He can guard in the slot. He can guard on the boundary. Make him your rover, your free safety. Do something creative with your defense that everyone has figured out, and utilize Jalen Ramsey while he's still got his legs under him. Please don't trade him. And like I said, we'll talk about corners next week. Today, we're going to touch on wide receivers, though. And this could be the last spot before maybe we get to the break. So let's look at the Rams wide receivers, who's currently on the roster, okay? These are the nopes. These are the guys that are like, yeah, let's not waste too much time on them. Jaquiri Robinson, 6'1", 182. Jareth Stearns, 5'9", 195. J.J. Koski, yeah, nope. Austin Trammell, I think I said last year, the last preseason game, I said, if Austin Trammell is playing any significant snaps this season, the Rams are going to be in trouble. Austin Trammell played a lot of snaps, and obviously at 5-12, the Rams were in trouble. Everyone's Nelson Spruce Award winner this last August, Lance McCutcheon, comes in at 6'3", 202. Everyone's really happy about Lance McCutcheon. They love Lance McCutcheon, and he got on the field. He played 56 snaps on offense, not just special teams. 56 snaps on offense. Had 4 targets, 0 catches, okay? I'm not saying he's a bust. I'm just not saying he's anybody you should count on right now, okay? Going to the players on the roster, we know who Cooper Kupp is, okay? All right? But Cooper Kupp needs to think about restructuring. He is going to restructure. I have no doubt he's going to restructure. There will be a significant restructure to his contract, because if he doesn't restructure, if the Rams stars aren't willing to restructure, what they're doing is they're forcing the team into a position where they will have to make moves to get under the salary cap, and it will render the back half of Cooper Kupp's career pretty useless, because by the time, if the Rams can't restructure him and other stars, they're going to go into a dark period, and by the time they come out of it, Kupp's career with the Rams will be done, right? Kupp takes a lot of hits. Kupp get banged up. We've seen that. The high ankle sprain this year, the knee back in 2018. He also injured a knee blocking in 2020. Kupp's susceptible to getting hurt, right? And he's a star. Allen Robinson, who everybody wants to kick to the curb. But before you kick Allen Robinson to the curb, I'll give you the emotional part of it first, or I guess it's the practical. It's not emotional. We haven't seen Allen Robinson, right? Matthew Stafford built a rapport in the offseason of 2021, going into 2021, with Cooper Kupp. Matthew Stafford was nursing his elbow all offseason last year, right? Then they didn't play in the preseason. And then by the time they were playing in the regular season, the offensive line was dead. And so what was Stafford doing? Far more than he should have been doing, and far more than he had done in previous years, which were Kupp-centric, is he threw to the guy he knew. He threw to the guy he knew where he was going to be, because he didn't have time. He wasn't getting 2.5 seconds, He didn't have time to consider the field. He knew where Kupp was going to be, and that's why he was going to Kupp all the time. So Allen Robinson really got no rhythm and no rapport with Matthew Stafford. If people want to kick him to the curb, maybe he is washed. I don't think he is, but if you cut him now, it's $26 million in dead cap money, and you only save $8 million for the cap, which is not bad. I mean, but you're going to give up an Allen Robinson receiver when you really didn't get a chance to see him. If you trade him, it's $11 million is the dead cap, and you save 6.8. Hey, you trade him, you may get something, but I don't know who's going to want him right now, because there's a lot of receivers in the league, and there's a lot of receivers always coming out in the draft, right? And every year they keep coming out, because the best athletes ain't going to play running back anymore. They want to play receiver. If you can get somebody to trade for Allen Robinson after June 1st, about as likely as me playing quarterback for the Rams this year, they would only take a 2.8 hit to dead cap and save 15.2, but you're not going to make that deal in June. I just don't see it unless somebody goes down and that team is convinced Allen Robinson could be their salvation. Van Jefferson is in the last year of his contract. He only makes 1.7. A cap move for him means nothing, but you could recoup a draft pick if you trade him, right? Or let him walk. I'm dubious about seeing him come back for the second contract. I can see the Rams, wait for it, letting Van Jefferson walk and taking another receiver this year. Call me crazy, right? I like Van Jefferson. He seemed to do well with Baker Mayfield, but I don't know. Is Van Jefferson, do you really want a second contract with Van Jefferson? Ben Skoranek, who People love to hate and hate to love. 6'3", 224. Played fullback last year. Can line up at the tight end spot. As I talked about Isaiah Pacheco being 7th round 252 last year, Skoranek was 7th round 251 overall in 2021. He was supposed to be just a special teams player, but he found time in the Super Bowl that year, and he was a significant guy in the offense this year until he got hurt. He's a utility guy. He can block, he can play special teams, and we've seen him make the occasional grab, and he's special. And if he wasn't special enough to play, I think you'd see Lance McCutcheon or somebody else in front of him, but the team likes him. They've liked him from the get-go, and because he could fill so many roles, you want him on your team. Do I want him as third receiver? Maybe not, but do I want him as an extra tight end somewhere? Do I want him at that fullback spot? Some creativity there? Yeah, and he has shown that his hands did improve. Brandon Powell is the one that I'm worried about. Brandon Powell showed he could play in the NFL, but he's a free agent. And until the Rams get their cap stuff worked out, it's going to be interesting to see if anyone offers him money. Again, a receiver, kick returner. Everyone believes you could find those guys anywhere. And for the most part, you can, but the Rams can't. Outside of Pharaoh Cooper, the Rams haven't had anybody until Brandon Powell. And so I really want him back. I loved it the way they incorporated him on offense. But if he's going to come back, he's got to come back at the right price, and we'll see. And then finally, there's Tutu Atwell, right? And as I did the message a week ago on reminding us not to keep dwelling on Creed Humphrey, because it's really bad. You're not going to get him. The Rams didn't draft him. He wasn't taken till the 63rd overall pick. Every team in the NFL passed on Creed Humphrey. Chiefs came around the second time. It's like, oh, yeah, let's take this guy, right? So Rams should have drafted him. Yeah, I agree. But Tutu Atwell at 57 is not his fault. It's not. You can't blame him. Should he have been drafted at 57? No, he probably shouldn't have been drafted at 57. But you could see he has hands. He has speed, and you can see why the team liked him. But if I was drafted 57th overall, I wouldn't say no. Neither would you. If somebody decided they wanted to hire me over some guy that's been broadcasting for 20 years and he's the best in the business, but they decided they wanted to go with me, do you think I would say no? Even though I know the other guy's better, I wouldn't say no, and neither would you. So don't blame Tutu Atwell. He had 18 catches last year for 16 yards, had at least 3 plus 30 bombs he caught. Tutu Atwell can play. I don't know if he's exactly the guy that's going to be full-time starter at the third position or an outside receiver for the Rams, but he can play, and I don't know how long he's going to play, and we need to stop blaming him for maybe the Rams' over-evaluation of him. You know, they fell in love with his speed. They fell in love with his hands. They just didn't have him step on the scale, right? Austin Trammell, J.J. Koski, Jareth Stern, Shakiri Robinson, thanks a lot. See you later. Lance McCutcheon, we'll check you out, okay? And now that tells me it is a possibility, as much as Ram fans might worry a little bit, they could draft a wide receiver in this draft. And we'll talk about that after the break. And I'm Joe Terosian. I was a sports writer for 21 years. I've been a pastor for 34 years. I pastor a small church in Burbank Faith Nazarene, and I'm also running an online ministry called Burbank Faith Virtual, which is right here on YouTube, and you can find us on Facebook and all the various places, and we're on pretty much daily there. And I do sports as a sports writer. I write books. They're available on Amazon, and I do this podcast. I do all this to supplement my income so I can keep on pastoring a church, a small church, but give us a visit. But that's who I am, and that's what I've been for a long, long time. And so I thank you for your support. One of the things I would appreciate is if you could hit like, if you could hit follow, if you could take the link of this show and post it over your social media and help us build our footprint, because I think we do a pretty good Rams vlog, Rams podcast, and RamView, and talk about other sports a little bit. So thank you so much for your support and for clicking on. Ask questions. I love to talk about football, love to talk about Rams and give our opinions, and I won't poo-poo you. I am a guy that believes quite often, not all of us, but quite often, many of us give very good responses, have very good ideas. I'm just not a sports bar guy, right? I'm not a low-hanging fruit guy. Rams aren't going to the Rams lose. I'm not going to say fire McSnead, and the Rams win with Baker Mayfield. I'm not going to say let's release Matthew Stafford. Okay, I think Ram fans are in a golden age right now, and they need to be as nuanced as their team is at appreciating the little things they do. And so that's the stuff I love talking about. All right. Did I get that in there? I got that in there. Again, thank you to Kistler Law Firm and Temple City Auto for supporting us. All right. Latest mock draft. And remember, mock drafts are like elbows. Everyone has two. The Rams take at number 36. We've seen them draft edge and all these mock drafts, edge, O-line, tight end. And we haven't seen them take a cornerback yet, but we've recognized they always need a cornerback. Cornerbacks, edges, O-linemen, these things are perpetuals, right? Should always load up on them. And but we haven't seen them take a wide receiver. In fact, we haven't even projected them taking a wide receiver. So I looked at today's mock draft. Like I said, they're like elbows. Everybody has two. And the Rams had selected in today's mock draft, Florida guard Osiris Torrance. Now, that's a great name. And he's got great size, 6'5", 347. Break me off some of that, right? I would love to have a guy 6'5", 347 playing guard if he's athletic enough. Do you know, remember Dennis Harrah? Dennis Harrah at the Rams? Dennis Harrah was 6'5", 260. And, you look at an offensive lineman that was 6'5", 260 back in the day. He's like, oh, fatso, right? 260, what a fatso. Osiris Torrance comes in not just at 3 spins, but at 347 pounds at 6'5". What a beast. And if that worked, I don't know what he grades out at. I don't know what he's going to do in the combine, but if the guy can play, I think I would be pretty cool with taking a guard at 36. I'm still thinking they're going to go tight end, but the Rams could go wide receiver. And so I looked at who are the nearest receivers taken in this mock draft I read. And there were 3. 4 receivers went in the first 70 picks, I think it was. Only 4. Or in the second round, I'm sorry. And so first round was Zay Flowers out of Boston College. He went at number 23 overall, which I thought was kind of high. And then at number 39, after the Rams were at 36, the mock draft had North Carolina's Josh Downs going at 39. And then Houston's Nathan Dell went second round at number 41 in the same round draft. Boutte from LSU, who's about 6'1", 6 foot, went at number 59 overall. But here's the funny thing. As we can't stand everyone hates Atwell for being so small, right? Zay Flowers comes in, and I think first round at number 23 is a little high for Zay Flowers. He comes in at 5'10", 172. All right, let's go to Josh Downs. Maybe we can draft Josh Downs out of North Carolina, a good receiver, 5'10", 175. Well, maybe Houston's Nathan Dell, right? Nathan Dell, man, that guy, not a bad receiver. Who was it? Who was his quarterback? Oh, Clayton Tune was his quarterback. Yeah, what about Nathan Dell? No, Nathan Dell is 5'10", 165. So it'll be interesting to see what the Rams do. If they draft any of those guys at that size at number 36, people are going to become apoplectic in the Rams world. Okay, around the NFL, the Cardinals hired a new coach, former Philadelphia DC Jonathan Gannon, who plays that soft shell coverage. So I hope he incorporates that with the Arizona defense, and it should mean for a prosperous 2 years until he's fired for the Rams in the NFC West. But Gannon referenced Kyler Murray as an elite quarterback. And this conversation was sparked by my friend and loyal RamView follower, Rich Whittington. Rich Whittington, who works at the Mid, and he was interesting because I went to school with him, but he's always been a Colts fan. Now, he watches RamView because he's wise and intelligent, but he and I were having a conversation today, and big Colts fan thinking, you know what, man, Colts are getting a quarterback at number 4 and they need one and yada, yada, yada. They got Shane Steichen, the Eagles offensive coordinator. So, but I suggested to him, what if the Arizona Cardinals decided to blow up the draft? What if they went Kevin Costner like in draft day and just flipped everything on its head? What if the Cardinals, who aren't winning this year, and the over-the-hill gang of J.J. Watt, A.J. Green, Rodney Hudson, DeAndre Hopkins are either retiring, moving on, or moving out, or should be moved out, right? They're not going anywhere. And Murray is, at best, out until midseason. That's the best case scenario. What do the Cardinals have? What do they have? But what if they went full rebuild, right? Traded DeAndre Hopkins, got rid of his contract for some draft picks. What if they traded Budda Baker, who was good this year? He wasn't great, but they're paying 16 rocks. That's 16 million to. That's 16 million to a safety on a team not going anywhere. What if they moved him? What if they moved to Zach Ertz? They got Trey McBride. What if they moved Zach Ertz? Why pay 12 rocks to him when you have Trey McBride and you can move out, maybe get a draft pick for him? What about James Conner? You're not going anywhere. You're just going to be wasting the last couple of years of his career. Maybe you can move him for a 5th rounder, 4th rounder, maybe a 3rd rounder, and be out from under his salary. What if they loaded up on picks with getting rid of some of those guys, and then with the 3rd overall pick, which they own, did something really unique? Now, assuming the Bears hold on to Justin Fields, and there's all kinds of momentum building that the Bears might trade Justin Fields, but let's just say the Bears hold on to Justin Fields. And at number 1, they draft something other than a quarterback, which most are assuming. Will Anderson, somebody, an edge player. It's the Bears, right? They're going to look for the next Butkus, the next Urlacher. It's the Bears, right? The Bears, okay? So it sounds pretty good that if he's there and they're still there, Houston's going to take Bryce Young, Alabama. No matter what I feel about Alabama quarterbacks, I like their running backs. Their quarterbacks are always small and they make me nervous. So Houston's going to take Bryce Young. The Cardinals are projected to take an interior lineman or an edge at number 3. But instead, what if the Cardinals at number 3 take, drum roll please, CJ Stroud out of Ohio State, who looked fantastic in the postseason, who showed stuff that none of us ever thought he had, right? And you're going to say, wait a second, the Cardinals got Kyler. Well, not really, not for 2023, right? I mean, I think it's a projected November return, and we don't know what we're going to get when he gets back. He was hurt without getting hit. He blew out everything on that knee. Now he's young, he heals, but he needs those wheels because he really doesn't have the size to stand in the pocket, right? I believe he'll get back in shape. I believe he'll recover. I believe the technology and efficiency of modern medicine can do all that. But then in the end, he's still Kyler Murray. But if you draft CJ Stroud, you get CJ Stroud on a rookie deal, which makes the quarterback position still somewhat cost efficient, right? You got to pay enormous sums to Kyler Murray. Well, you're paying him, but you're not getting anything from him this year. So you bring in CJ Stroud on a rookie deal, and you got some balance there, right? This, of course, would drive the Colts, who draft at number 4. It would drive Colt fans to high places and ledges without rails. I told my friend Rich he would probably be able to fry an egg on the back of his head. But in Arizona, you're already in a rebuild, whether you know it or not. You're over the hill gang. All those old guys you brought in to think you could steal the West and get a playoff berth or advance in the playoffs, well, they're gone. And 2023 is shaping up to be a season of treading water and waiting for Kyler, who you don't know anything about. Why do that when you can blow it up now with a new coach, a new GM, instead of burdening them with the past? Let them be bold and make decisions and get the ball rolling on 2024. I sound like a Cardinal fan, don't I? I'm not. It's not practical, of course, to do anything with Kyler Murray till 2025. His contract is so terrible that the dead cap money and the salary cap hit is just gross for 23 and 24. You just can't do anything about it. But he's already not playing in 2023, at least back half of the season if everything goes well. But if you take Stroud and he's successful, Murray, who will be 28 by 2025, will likely be itching to restructure, renegotiate, and begging for a trade and a little more compliant to a move. Either way, before you have to pay Stroud, you will have leverage on Murray. I think that's interesting. I think it's really interesting. You might not like it, and I'll let you blow holes in it, but I would be thinking that way if I'm a Cardinal fan because I just don't trust Kyler. And the team's not going anywhere this year, not at all. Okay, but I went long. Real quick, Derek Carr visits the Jets, Sounds like a leverage move to me. Lamar Jackson, I can't believe the Ravens would let him walk. I'm seeing a franchise tag. I don't know. I just wouldn't give him the guaranteed money. Cleveland's dumb enough to give it to Deshaun Watson. I don't think the Ravens are dumb enough to give it to Jackson, who's a great quarterback, but whose body is starting to fall apart. Justin Herbert is ready for his bag, and it's going to be scary big. And then the last question I had today was Jared Goff. The Lions have 2 picks in the first round, and if you're Detroit and you're this close, 9-8, you just missed the playoffs, and now you have an opportunity to take a quarterback in the first round. Or do you just keep betting on Goff, that you get that next year out of Goff? You get a third year out of Goff, and then see what you have going into next year. Goff could have a decent year. You could be a playoff team next year. You should be a playoff team next year. So you're not going to be drafting, 6th overall with the Rams pick? You're not going to be drafting 6th overall again. That maybe this is the year you make your move to get your quarterback of the future. The top quarterbacks listed are Bryce Young. We know where he's going. Will Levis of Kentucky, who feels like a year away. He doesn't feel like a plug-and-play starter. C.J. Stroud, a guy I talked about last year, but he played on a bad Stanford team. He shouldn't be first-round material, but he might get discussion, is Tanner McKee, if he does well at the Combine or Pro Day. Guy everyone forgot about when he got hurt, tore up his knee, Hendon Hooker at Tennessee. I feel like Anthony Richardson has climbed the board because people are looking for the next Lamar, and I think they might be making a mistake. I think it's too soon. It feels like a project. Aiden Connell, Purdue, forget it. Jake Hayner at Fresno State always gets hurt. Stenson Bennett, whatever, And at the bottom of that list, Dorian Thompson-Robinson, UCLA, I don't think so. And I thought the lowest rated quarterback that could be drafted was Max Duggan of TCU. He seems like somebody that could come in and provide something. Whoa, I think that is it. All right. Wow, got a late start today, had meetings, but a lot of fun. I don't know where my energy came from, but I think it came from football and talking Rams. So I'm Joe Terosian. Thank you so much for clicking on. Please hit like, leave comments, hit share, take this link and put it all over social media as we build our footprint here with RamView. Check out our sponsors, TempleCityAutoRepair.com and Kistler Law, doing it all for you since 1992. God bless, take care, and we will talk to you soon.